Hello viewers, welcome back to another section of my YouTube channel tutorial. In this video, I'm going to take you through the basics of mechanics. Without wasting my time, if this is the first time you are visiting this channel, kindly subscribe to this channel and please watch the video to the end so you understand every part of the video. Mechanics. What is mechanics and what does it entail? This is exactly what we're going to talk about in this video. So when you say mechanics, so mechanics simply is a physical science. So mechanics is so it's a physical science that describes and predicts the condition of rest or motion of bodies under the action of forces. So now, from this definition, when we say mechanics, mechanics simply is a physical science that is a branch of physical science. When you talk about physical science, what we mean is physics. So when you hear about physics, you're talking about physical science, physicality of nature. So it is a physical science that describes and predicts the conditions of rest or motion of bodies under the action of forces. So when you talk about mechanics, all that we mean is when you apply a force to a body A here, whenever there is application of a force, the conditions or the behavior of this body here is going to be termed as the mechanics of the body. How it stands, pressure, how it reacts to forces, and the state at which it's going to be under the application of forces. And it can't be a one force, one vector force. It can be the application of several forces. And mechanics simply considers the behavior of any body, whether a rigid body or whether a particle, which is under the action of forces. And that is the whole view of mechanics. Now, let's quickly go through the categories of mechanics. So, the categories of mechanics. So, when we say the categories of mechanics, we have mechanics of rigid bodies, mechanics of rigid bodies, mechanics of rigid bodies. So when we say mechanics of rigid body, what's a rigid body in the first place? So a rigid body is any body which can withstand a force without deformation. So assuming you have a body, it can be a stone. You can see that when there is application of a force, the molecules are not going to rearrange to cause total deformation of the material. But a rigid body can be analyzed when forces are applied to it and to see its behavior, the strength, and other parameters or properties of the material. So, mechanics of rigid bodies deals with studying how rigid bodies react to several forces or how rigid bodies react to the application of a force. So, under mechanics of rigid bodies, we still have two divisions. We have what we call the statics and we have what we call the dynamics. So, let's see. When we say statics, statics deals with the equilibrium of bodies under the action of balance forces. So, equilibrium of bodies under the action of balanced forces. So when you say statics is simply talking about how forces balance upon the application on a body. So is the equilibrium of bodies under the action of balanced forces. But when you talk about dynamics, dynamics deals with motions of bodies under the action of unbalanced forces. So, as the name denotes static here, it means the body is going to be stationary. Upon application of a force, still the body will remain at rest and there wouldn't be movement or motion. But in dynamics, it deals with the motion of body. Since you hear dynamics, it keeps on changing. So motion of bodies under the action of what? Unbalanced forces. Unbalanced forces. That is the key term. Take note. Statics deals with balanced forces and dynamics deals with unbalanced forces. That was going to cause the body to what? Move. So now let's see. Under categories of mechanics, I've mentioned mechanics of rigid bodies. So let's talk about other branches which are not part of the categories but they are still under mechanics of rigid bodies. We have what we call the kinematics. Kinematics. So when you talk about kinematics, what comes in mind? Kinetics. We have kinematics. So let's consider kinematics. It deals with motion of bodies without considering the forces that cause the motion. So when you're talking about kinematics, you're talking about motion of bodies. So kinematics is under dynamics. We have statics, then you have dynamics. So under dynamics, we have what we call this kinematics. That is one branch of dynamics. So you can really see the architecture. Let's see, we started from mechanics. Under categories of mechanics, we have what we call the mechanics of rigid bodies. We also have two main categories under this, which is the statics and the dynamics. Under dynamics, we have kinematics, which is the motion of what bodies. So when you hear of motion, then you are dealing with dynamics. But the motion, it has two parts. A part where we consider the motion without the forces in play, and that is what we call the kinematics. So motion of bodies without considering body, without considering the forces in play. So kinematics only talks about the motion of the body. That's where you get the equations of what? Motion. It doesn't involve the forces which cause the motion. Now let's talk about kinetics, which is the second division of dynamics. So when you say kinetics, it deals with motion of bodies also in relation to the forces which caused it. So motion of bodies in relation to what? The forces that cause the motion. So see these two main divisions of what? Dynamics. That is kinematics and what? Kinetics. Where kinematics consider only the motion of the bodies, by kinetics consider the motion of the body as well as the forces causing the motion. Now, let's see other categories of mechanics. Other major category we have what we call the relativistic mechanics. So when you say relativistic mechanics, it deals with the phenomena that occur at the cosmic scale. So this mechanics deals with spatial or cosmic. So it deals with the astronomical bodies, which is the strong gravitational fields, velocities approaching the speed of light. So those parameters used in astronomy is under relativistic mechanics. It's not treated under mechanics of rigid bodies. So that has its own. So the cosmic bodies or the spatial bodies, considering its velocities, which are velocities approaching the speed of light, that falls under relativistic mechanics. Now, the next category is what we call the quantum mechanics. Quantum mechanics. Now, when you say quantum mechanics, these mechanics go deep down the atomic level. So it's concerned with particles on the atomic level or subatomic scale, where you have your nucleus, you have your shells with. So quantum mechanics deals with mechanics of atomic particles, that is to the deepest level, the subatomic particles, and that is where we apply the quantum mechanics. Now let's go to the another part of the categories, and in this part is what we call the relativistic quantum mechanics. So relativistic quantum mechanics. So you can see this is a hybrid branch of mechanics, which is unification of special relativity and quantum mechanics. So if you want to combine the special relativity and quantum mechanics, that is where we get this new field of what mechanics. So we have to unify the special relativity and quantum mechanics to get relativistic quantum mechanics. So basically, these are the categories of mechanics we have, and this video is concerned about giving you the overview of basic mechanics. So what mechanics are and what it does. So thank you for showing up in this video. Kindly subscribe, like, and share, since I'm going to take you through the whole course of basic mechanics for you to know how forces interact with bodies, and also to know the effects of forces, and to calculate the various parameters in mechanics, as well as equilibrium of bodies. Thank you.